Now, Khamzat Chimaev will be facing Robert Whittaker in a middleweight #1 contenders bout headlining the card on June 22nd in Saudi Arabia. The event will be aired on ABC in the United States. The co-main event will feature Sergei Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov in a heavyweight matchup. Now, this event marks the beginning of a new partnership between the UFC and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, expanding the promotion's presence in the Middle East. Now, Chimaev, with a perfect 13-0 record, faces Whittaker, a former middleweight champion, coming off a win over Paulo Costa in what is expected to be one of the biggest fights of the year. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video talking about what we could expect to see at UFC Saudi Arabia, and I pretty much gave out a prediction that ended up being true. I said that we're most likely going to see Khamzat Chimaev at UFC Saudi Arabia, and that ended up being true. And I also said that I thought that Khamzat Chimaev was probably going to get a fast track towards the title, maybe like 2 fights away, but no. He's literally just 1 fight away from fighting for the title. In my opinion, they definitely rushed it. Khamzat Chimaev has 100%, without a doubt, UFC privilege. If there's a lot of people that are talking about, oh, Dana White privilege, UFC privilege, this is exactly that. This is 100% proof that Khamzat Chimaev has UFC privilege, has Dana White privilege, because in my opinion, I thought that maybe he was like 2 fights away from fighting for the title, but this is the fast track, ladies and gentlemen, and it's against a very, very good opponent. I thought that maybe he was going to fight, somebody in the top 10, maybe then fight somebody in the top 5, and if he beats somebody in the top 5, well, then, he probably is most likely going to fight for the belt, But for some reason, I guess Dana White and the UFC think that it's a good idea to have Khamzat Chimaev just fight somebody in the top 5 off the rip. And, I guess, it is what it is. It is what it is. I think it is going to be a pretty good matchup nonetheless. Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker is definitely going to be a tough matchup for either fighter. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the person who has the edge in this fight is obviously going to be Robert Whittaker, given the fact that he's used to being in these types of matchups. I mean, Robert Whittaker has been fighting quality opponents time after time after time, and this is really truly Khamzat Chimaev's first fight wherever he's going to fight somebody with quality opposition. If I'm just being completely honest, I know a lot of people are talking about, well, he beat Usman. Well, yeah, he beat Usman in a 10 days notice, literally coming off the couch, and he's a fighter that's under his weight class. So yes, this is going to be Khamzat Chimaev's first official real fight and his first competitive real fight where both of these fighters are going to have real fight camps, right? And I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see if Khamzat Chimaev is gonna pretty much just silence all the haters, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't really see the hype behind him, me included, right? I don't see what's so special about Khamzat Chimaev. I don't see why so many people are obsessed with his, qualities and traits, saying that he's such a dominant fighter, right? Where he hasn't even proven himself in the top echelon of competition in both of the weight classes that he was in. But obviously this is going to be a very, very good opportunity for him to silence everybody, including myself. For Robert Whittaker, I mean, if he beats someone like Khamzat Chimaev, obviously he deserves to fight for the title next. If he beats someone with that name, obviously that's going to attract a lot more eyes, and I think it's going to be, it could make for a big title fight if he's able to beat someone like Khamzat Chimaev, without a doubt. Now, obviously, both of these fighters have very distinct styles. I mean, what we could expect to see from Khamzat Chimaev is obviously some of his grappling, some of his wrestling. He likes to find himself in those positions where he could literally use his body as leverage to manipulate his opponent and overall take control of the fight. From Robert Whittaker, I mean, obviously, he's a striker. He likes to jump up and down a lot. He has a very distinct disposition with like karate or taekwondo. He is definitely one of those fighters that like to come in and out. I mean, we see it all the time. He likes to step in with jabs and step in with crosses. And I think that kind of style could be a little bit dangerous, right? But with high high risk, high reward type of style, if I'm being completely freaking honest. But yeah, this is overall going to be a very, very entertaining match. I cannot wait to see it. Like I said, in my opinion, I feel like Robert Whittaker has the upper edge in this fight because, you know, he has the overall experience fighting a lot more seasoned opponents, if I'm just being completely honest. And this is going to be Khamzat Chimaev's literally first time fighting a top quality fighter. But let me know your predictions down in the comment section below, and let's go ahead and talk about the co-main event. Is the heavyweight bout, right? And I think that is going to be a very, very entertaining fight. Number third ranked, three rank, whatever, Sergei Pavlovich versus number 6 in the heavyweight division, Alexander Volkov. In my opinion, this fight is a little bit overdue, but better late than never. Look, what we could expect to see from both of these guys is to try to go out there and put a very, very good performance. Obviously, both of these guys have fallen victim to Tom Aspinall's reign in the heavyweight division. So all we could expect from these fighters is for them to go out there and try their ass off, right? Because they're definitely going to try to make a good impression so they could get back into title contention. But if I'm just being completely honest, I feel like the person here who's probably going to win this fight is the boogeyman himself, Sergei Pavlovich, who just has TKO win after TKO win after TKO win. He is a very dangerous fighter that has bombs ass hands, right? He is literally the opposite of pillow hands. Obviously, Alexander Volkov, he had a very, very good fight against Tai Tuivasa, but it's Tai Tuivasa. I mean, it's a guy who had a 3-fight losing streak previously from fighting Alexander Volkov. And I mean, Sergei Pavlovich is just going to be a completely different beast in a completely different realm, right? It's two completely different fighters, right? In my opinion, I feel like Sergei Pavlovich right now has the more impressive resume. So it's going to be very, very intriguing to see. Anything can happen in the heavyweight division. I mean, it doesn't take much to see a TKO from both of these guys. They're big as hell, right? Then they generate a whole lot of power in these hands. But yeah, that is going to be a very, very entertaining fight, and I cannot wait to see it, honestly, right? Because it's going to be very interesting to see if we see maybe a rematch from either one of these guys, right? We could probably see Tom Aspinall versus Sergei Pavlovich or Tom Aspinall versus Alexander Volkov in the future, and those could make for some pretty good fights, in my opinion. Now, another fight that I think is going to be very important for us to witness at UFC Saudi Arabia, and I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video, is going to be Daniel Rodriguez versus Kevin Gastelum. I mean, both of these guys, they've been doing not so well the last couple of 3 fights, or the last couple of 5 fights. For Kevin Gastelum, he has 2 wins in his last 5 fights, and for Daniel Rodriguez, he has 3 wins in his last 5 fights, but currently is in a 2-fight losing streak. I mean, what can we say? Kevin Gastelum, he failed to have a successful fight against Sean Brady and lost to submission in his last fight. And I think he's going to try to make a good impression whenever we do see him at UFC Saudi Arabia. I think he's going to have a little bit more drive. He's going to be the younger fighter, being 32 years old. Southpaw, and he's obviously going to be fighting another Southpaw, that is Daniel Rodriguez. The last time we heard about Daniel Rodriguez, right, he was accused of taking banned substances, but I'm willing to be, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that, maybe he wasn't totally aware of some of the foods or some of the medicine that he was taking or injecting into his body that had banned substances, and maybe, he was just ignorant to some of that information. But like I said, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think that this is going to be a pretty good scrap. Both of these guys like to they like to trade in the pocket. They like to strike. It's going to be a southpaw versus southpaw type of thing, and I think it's going to be a pretty good fight that we're going to see at UFC Saudi Arabia. And the next fighter that I want to talk about very briefly is going to be Shamar Magomedov, the Bullet. Right now, this guy is one of the biggest hype trains in the UFC, even though he only has 1 fight in the UFC, right? This guy has TKO wins. He's going to be facing Ihor Potieria, a guy who has a lot more UFC experience than him. This guy is 21-5, 27 years old, southpaw, and has a 50% win rate in the UFC. Currently, I think it's going to be some proper competition for Shamar Magomedov. This guy is 29 years old, so he's not the youngest fighter, but obviously they're going to try to push him as much as possible. And if he beats someone like Ihor Potieria, who has 21 wins and 5 losses in his MMA career, obviously that's going to look great for his resume, and they're going to try to push this guy as much as possible, given the fact that he's one of the Medovs, right? He's one of the Medov. He's from that side of the world, and obviously people from Russia have a whole lot of hype behind them, given the fact that a lot of people see them as, unbeatable fighters. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, it's a pleasure talking to each and every single one of you guys. Peace out and have a good one.